Okay, so here we are. Oh my gosh, we're back. So season
We're
5,
back.
episode 10.
Mercy shall follow me. And where is that from, Jamie?
You know what? I meant to look at the specific reference,
Oh,
but
I
it's
know
certainly
exactly.
Psalms. Mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and we shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Yeah.
It's the 23rd Psalm.
Oh, Psalm. Yeah. Yes, of course.
The Lord is
Psalm
my
23.
shepherd. Yes.
Oh, and I call
always
myself a
say.
Bible scholar. How embarrassing.
I think I had to memorize that one in first grade.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I did too.
Yeah.
But why didn't I?
So,
Yeah.
and just FYI, I want to say this up front and up ahead of time, that the word in Hebrew for pursue, for shall follow me, and mercy shall, and goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Mm-hmm. The word for follow isn't really follow in the Hebrew. I mean, it is follow, but it's has more of a sense of pursue, as in it's coming after you.
It's stalking you.
Stalking you. So that is important to know for this episode.
Okay. Yeah. We're already going places I didn't even know we were going to go. This is great.
Feeling it.
All right. So start off then, because you've got thoughts.
Okay. I've got thoughts. I've got thoughts. And I don't know that I want to say them just yet. So last week we put it out there, and we were being really nitpicky, and there were several of you who were really upset that we were being nitpicky.
Were they? I didn't see those. Obviously, I don't pay very close attention. I respond to the nice things and then don't.
I post this to several Facebook groups. I'm a part of a bunch of different Outlander Facebook groups, and so I posted this to a lot of them. And then there were a couple of people who were like, "I loved everything about it, and how dare you nitpick?" And I'm like, I think I have a right to nitpick a little bit. And
you're welcome to love everything about it. That's fine.
Yes, and you're welcome to be a part of it. And thank you for engaging and saying how you felt. We're okay with that. We don't hate you, and we don't hate.
We don't think you're less of anything. It's fine.
No, we don't. And we have been taught to be able to have conversation even virtually. So it's really fine. What I was upset with, and I need to just get over myself on this, is that it wasn't like the book, and I have a real issue with it.
Oh, this episode wasn't like the book.
They brought book 6 into the 5th season again. They just wanted to go ahead and end the whole saga with Stephen Bonnet. And they did. So the thing with Stephen Bonnet kidnapping Bree, the thing with Stephen Bonnet taking Bree and then being sentenced to death, all of that is in A Breath of Snow and Ashes, which is book 6, which will be season 6.
Yeah.
And so that was my big thing. I wanted Stephen Bonnet to hang around just a little bit more, because in the book he does, and he's always kind of this specter that always
just hanging over your
head.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like Blackjack Randall was a specter for 2 seasons, and then it's still kind of a specter in Jamie's life. So I kind of wanted that to happen with Stephen Bonnet, and I found that it was just a really interesting portrayal of somebody who is just really messed up in a different way. And so the producers wanted to make him, villain and a monster, which is interesting.
Yeah, I had made myself a note saying Monsters and Heroes should have been the episode or title for this episode, not last episode.
I have that exact thing written in my notes. I think that why didn't they name this one Monsters and Heroes? Why didn't they do that instead of Mercy Shall Follow Me? I felt Mercy Shall Follow Me might have been actually very appropriate for the last episode. Yeah. But I mean,
the parting words at the end of the episode, I'm like, okay, I see why they did Mercy. Yeah.
And
but
that is
still.
a beautiful section of the book, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It is ambiguous in the book.
Mm-hmm.
They left it ambiguous, and I was so grateful for that,
Mm-hmm.
because it probably is both. It's her revenge, it's her vengeance, and it's her
Mm-hmm.
take.
Mm-hmm.
And she chooses to do something horrible and kill him, but at the same time, it's merciful and kill him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I found that they managed that really, really well.
Yeah.
So I don't think Ulysses kills anybody in any book.
No.
Yeah.
Gerald,
So
I don't remember Gerald Forbes. Well,
I don't remember
maybe
Gerald
he did, but I don't think Gerald Forbes was certainly killed. I think he just kind of limps off the set. Yeah, I mean, Ulysses goes rogue in a different way, which, we could talk about that. Just kind of what they've chosen to do or not do with all of the people of color in this story. Phaedra and Ulysses generally, but and changing it from the book. And again, okay, so a couple things relation to the bringing in book 6. So there was somebody, I don't remember their name, but it was maybe episode 1 or 2. Somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm just ready for the Stephen Bonnet thing to be over," in the comment YouTube thing. And I was like, well, it might be, but it might not be. Hang on, it could be next season too, And she was like, "Oh my gosh." So for that way, I'm kind of glad that this is kind of, in some ways, like that they went that way and instead of just stretching it out.
Right.
It all felt really fast.
It felt very fast. Suddenly he was a pitiable character.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a rapist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's been damaged too, because hurt people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so he's been damaged. He talks about his fear of drowning.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about all of these things. It's interesting that she worked in Moby Dick, which was.
Yeah. So she's read it a few times. She can tell that story. Just pretend as if she's reading it. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. That's fine. That's and it was good. I mean, it was clever of her to do it that way. But yeah, I'm kind of. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I can see why they did it.
Yeah. So Diana draws Stephen Bonnet very he's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think he's been complicated mostly in the TV show too.
He really has. And I'm glad that he has portrayed him this way. Ed Speleers has portrayed him almost childlike, as if he's, at least in this past episode, almost this kind of bizarre, hopeful child of maybe I can make good.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he does not see what bad he's done, he can't really comprehend the evil that he has done. And I'm not sure that is true in the books. I think he does comprehend the evil that he's done. I think he does comprehend the hurt he's created. I think he does try to pay penance in some ways with that. Particularly by giving her the diamond and by trying to be father to his child, by not necessarily being father, but at least providing for her.
Yeah. I don't remember the whole custody battle kind of stuff, like him planning on taking the child and taking over River Run. Yeah. So that
never really portrayed in the books at all, and was something that they hyped up. My biggest fear about all this was that season 6 was going to get canned. And so I did check online today, and it's not just at least the latest is they are now writing season 6.
Okay. That's good news.
So they've written episode 1. Sam Heughan has said that he's read it. They're still putting on some revisions, and they've started episode 2.
Okay.
And Katrina has said that they've started that, and that the writers are really hard at work in April getting this season together. And the season focus for next year, which in the books there are several foci. And they're using a big word. There are several foci in book 6, and
Mm-hmm.
one of them is Stephen Bonnet. So they've taken that out,
Yeah.
which will clean up next season, and it's only going to be 12 episodes again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be mostly focused on the coming of the Revolutionary War
Mm-hmm.
and the burning down of the house. The idea that the Wilmington Gazette had said that Janie and Claire and everybody in their family dies. So how can they prevent it?
Yeah.
So that's, and then of course Bree has another child. Spoilers. Sorry.
Yeah.
Bree, and we need to put that in the thing that
Okay.
we've got. Bree is going to have another child, and they go back. They go back to the 20th century. So there's going to be.
So they've said that's what season 6 is going to be.
They've said that season 6 is going to be around the Revolutionary War and around whether or not they can change what happens in time.
Okay, so maybe we get Montauk 5.
I'm hoping we
Wendigo,
get Montauk 5,
that kind of stuff. Yeah,
and Master Raymond.
I mean, we've already gotten Ottertooth, but yeah, we haven't had Wendigo yet.
No, Wendigo or Master Raymond. The conversations around Master Raymond pops up again, not physically, but we hear about him. So he becomes more of a mysterious character than he already was.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that's going to be season 6, because that's enough for 12 episodes.
Yeah.
I think maybe as far as writing screenplay and putting something in for television, that might have been the best way to complete the arc for Stephen Bonnet.
Yeah.
And get him out of there.
Yeah. Plus, yeah. We've got some other narrative developments that are important to keep in mind too.
So let's talk Ulysses. You were going to say something about Ulysses.
Yeah. So Ulysses. I mean, my note is okay. So he calls her it's Mistress Jocasta, implying that there's some kind of relationship there that it has some intimacy. But they're in the books. She and Ulysses have been in a sexual relationship with one another. In the TV show, there has not been any kind of indication of that. So, yeah, I guess it's her hand. So okay, so that's problematic. I mean, in several different ways. A friend of mine is really quite upset, actually, to not have that part of Ulysses, that in some way she perceives it as kind of neutering of black men, that the black sexuality has been taken out of the show completely, but then I would say pretty much blackness in general has been taken out of the show completely. We haven't dealt with the question of slavery really at all. Like, yeah, we know Claire and Bree don't like it, but we don't talk about how Jocasta's richness, her wealth in this episode is all based on the backs of enslaved people.
She may have, and they were actually talking about paying servants and paying people, and they pay the prostitutes, but they're not paying the actual workers.
Not paying the actual workers upon whom your rich is gained.
Yeah.
So there's an issue around that. I mean, in some ways, I'm kind of like, I'm glad that they haven't made Ulysses kind of, her plaything, in the sense of, but at the same time, it's kind of it is a silencing of a person of color's character, but yet now they've kind of given an indication that there is an intimacy there, and I don't want this to be one of those she's a good master situation, because then I'm not okay with that either. That's not okay.
No, it's not. And so I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a second. Jocasta is in a position of serious power. How much of this sexual relationship with Ulysses
is consensual?
That's
what I mean. Like, if we were doing something on Thomas Jefferson, did I want to make sure Sally Hawkins is there? But do I want it to then be perceived as she's in love with him? No.
It's incredibly complicated. And they've complicated it more by adding Myrta. So she's been in love with Myrta. So is this unrequited love from Ulysses? Because that's kind of it's extremely dangerous for him, and not something that he would really put out there for fear of his life.
Yeah.
And can't, because she has so much power.
Yeah.
And she is now married to Duncan Innes, and they have not dealt with Duncan's
inabilities. Yeah.
They've not dealt with his incapacities there.
Impotence. Yeah.
Impotence, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know how she feels about Ulysses and whether or not she's allowed to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not her feeling that has to do with her position of power.
Yeah. Yeah, and billing him as the faithful servant as opposed to the obligated slave.
Isn't the term, I don't, should I even use the term?
I don't know.
The Uncle Tom term?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's what I'm concerned with for Ulysses, although he rolls his eyes appropriately at stupid white people, but he's there for everybody else. And it's just not, I know it was done, but it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, in the simplifying of story, I can understand maybe why they made those decisions, why Phaedra hasn't been a part, why, I get it, but there's a really great, we can put a link, but there is a really great piece that came out last week, I think.
Last week,
about kind of, hey, we're not talking about slavery.
Enough. At all. We're not talking about the institution of it, and we're not showing the enslaved peoples in reality. They just seem happy and clean, and
which is just feeds into that myth. Oh, it's just Anyway, so on top of that, there was a quote. So I found it quite ironic and a bit of a play, and interesting, where Stephen Bonnet says to Bree, "Show me how to be in your world," without knowing that this isn't her world either.
That was
really quite clever, and how
she's supposed to. Yeah, how she's supposed to be a lady, but she was never trained.
She's never been a lady. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So
she's an engineer.
Yeah. Which is also a lady thing now, but back then not so much. Okay. So one thing I missed is obviously Roger and Jamie have been practicing swords, and he's halfway decent at it, and we didn't get to see that.
Right.
I'm sad about that. I was looking forward to seeing that.
No, they started right with the search.
Yeah.
And to be done with it pretty quickly, because you had to get to the meat of Stephen Bonnet, capturing
ending
her.
with him being dead, basically.
Yeah, this was the finished arc.
Yeah. So the closing line was that mercy, or was it to just make sure he was dead? Yeah. So we should say we talked about this in a podcast episode. So if you haven't watched it or listened to it, it's the vengeance and forgiveness. So vengeance, justice, and mercy, and then forgiveness was the second part. And a lot of people talk about Bree as showing mercy when she kills him, and we dig through that.
Not really sure about that, because she, Roger said this was his kill. And Bree has been very clear from the beginning. This is hers, and she takes it. She takes the shot. In the books, just let me say, in the books, he asks her to do this. Stephen Bonnet begs her to do this for him, and they row out to the boat. They row their boat out, and she shoots him point blank, which is a little bit more. It's more personal. And she really does take it. She doesn't know if she can do it.
Yeah.
In the book, and Roger says, "I'll do it for you if you can't."
Yeah.
But she's like, "Nope, it's mine.
This is mine."
Yeah.
But with him asking, then carries this thing of carrying out a dying man's wish, and that there is something kind of merciful about that. But then, it is complicated, and I do really like that they left that really ambiguous at the end of the show. I thought that was really good, actually.
Well, so much of life is, so much of our intentions are, whether they be selfish or altruistic. It's. We are complicated people, and that's one of the things I really love about Diana Gabaldon's writing, is that Jamie isn't always the nice guy that he is in the series, and Claire isn't always the sweet person in this that she is in the series. They've got a lot of complications themselves.
Yeah.
What is not complicated, however, is geography.
Okay. What are you going to say?
How far is Ocracoke from Wilmington?
Yeah.
Do you just take a dinghy there? Because I'm thinking you don't. You could take a dinghy, maybe, from Duck or from Corolla to Ocracoke. You could take a ferry from Corolla to Ocracoke. But if you are anywhere in Virginia, North Carolina, or South Carolina, Wilmington is far away from Ocracoke, and you would need a ship to get there.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's been established. Geography and both natural formation, flora and fauna, as well as
Please just come
distance
to North
is
Carolina
not
once
the
or twice.
yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but at least show the difficulty in getting there.
Yeah.
You can do that in a montage really quickly. Just
Yeah.
show them on a ship, show them getting into a boat, because Ocracoke is like the northernmost part of North Carolina on a barrier island, and Wilmington is like at the point.
Yeah.
It's really far away, and it's not a barrier island.
So in relation to Ocracoke, though, book readers would know that there's a stone circle on Ocracoke, and that's where, becomes an important thing.
Well, we've already said it, but yes.
But we've been on Ocracoke now, and no one noticed any stone circles. So I think that indicates that we're not going to use Ocracoke again as a
probably
portal.
Not. Yeah, probably not. I mean, more than likely, I would recommend, if I were writing, just for clarity, they would go back to the one that was in the woods.
Yeah, that Roger saw and was like, "Oh my god!" Yeah.
Right, they would go.
Which
back
he
to
hasn't mentioned to anybody, so it's going to be when we see it in a previously on, and he's gonna.
My guess is that he has at some point told them. We've not seen it because they keep talking about going back. They keep talking about being able to go back and how he chose not to go back, right?
Yeah, but
we talked about that.
As far as viewers, we know the only way to go back is to go back to Craignadoon.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Or to Haiti, because there was one in Haiti.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if maybe he tells them, or maybe they do. Remember when I was lost and I told you?
Oh my gosh! Remember? Oh, actually, think about it.
I remember.
Yeah. I think that might be what we get. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Well.
And we have 2 more episodes, and then we're done. So let's see where it goes.
And then we'll have to figure out what else to watch during quarantine. I'll have to edit all of it. So for those of you who've been concerned, and I have had a couple of folks say, "Hey guys, are you really only doing this now?" No, we're not just doing this.
We are working on podcast episodes. We are recording them. We are banking them for release.
Yeah.
Imminently.
Now, if you prefer this over the podcast, we can talk. But I think that podcasting is itself its own beautiful thing, and so we want to be able to provide both of these. So we will. We've got 4 in the can that I've got to edit, and we're getting ready to do another one this weekend.
And we've got some people lined up, and it's going to be really good. We're excited about the new season. So yeah, it's going to be great. But so we are coming back, I think, with podcast episodes. So don't forget. But yeah, 2 more episodes of the TV show. We'll see where they go.
Yes. Looking forward to it, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.